Hey everyone, welcome to my tutorial on how you can take my cosplay lineup template and make your own custom amazing cosplay lineup for your future cons. So this one is going to be specifically on Tsumi Con, but the thing is you can edit it so you can make it for whatever con you might be going to. However, I will be making different templates in the future for the different cons I go to, and I'm planning on going to some major ones, so yeah, keep an eye out for that. Anyway, let's get into this. So first thing you're going to want to do is go down into the description and click on that Google Drive link. And inside of there, you're going to find two files. You're going to find a README file. You can look into that, but you really don't need to if you're already watching the video. And the other one is a zip file that you're going to want to download and extract. Once you extract it, you're going to find three folders inside. So let me bring that up here. You're going to find a fonts folder, image template, and a video template folder. First thing you want to do is go into the fonts folder. You're going to want to extract these two font files and then install them. So these are Babus Nue and Osaka Sans Serif. They're going to be used heavily throughout the two templates. Now, of course, you can use your own fonts in the end if you want, but I highly recommend you use these. These are really nice fonts, and they're going to be, they're already there, so you don't need to do too much editing or like adjusting size and whatnot. And next thing you're going to find is an image template folder, which is going to consist of a PNG, PSD, and an XCF file, depending on which file editor you are using, or photo editor you are using. PSD is for Photoshop, XCF is for GIMP. PNG, this is just an example, so that's what it's going to look like. And then finally, you have your video template folder, which is going to consist of an assets folder. And I highly recommend you drag in whatever images you're going to be using into this assets folder. That way you know where everything is, so you don't need to worry about jumping around to different folders and stuff like that. Actually, let's do that real quickly. So inside of this tutorial folder, I have the images that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to open this in a new window. If you're on Mac, just do the equivalent. And then go to video template, assets, and drag this in there. And now the images are here. And then finally, you also have a DRA folder inside the video templates folder. This is going to be the project folder that we're going to be using. DRA stands for DaVinci Resolve Archive. DaVinci Resolve is the video editor that we are going to be using. So if you have Premiere, I'm sorry, you're going to have to use Resolve for this specific tutorial, unless you want to make your own from scratch, and you just can take a look at my timeline and see what I did, kind of get a grasp for it, and try to recreate in Premiere and After Effects, or however you want to do it. Now here we also have an example MP4. This is going to be an example of what it's going to look like, so let's take a look. So right now, this one, it just has sample text going across, and it's using gray and black boxes in order to like represent where the image is going to go. So yeah, it's going to do all three of these, and it's also lined up perfectly to match the beat of the music. So yeah, that's one thing that's pretty nice about it. You also have a username thing over here where you can put your own username or name or whatever you want to call it. Now don't worry about the zoom in at the end. That's because I have the glitch effect going in the background, and the glitch effect ended on this. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, first thing we're going to want to do is, like I mentioned, you're going to want to get DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is a free video editing software that is extremely powerful and very useful. If you're interested in video editing at all, I highly recommend you get into DaVinci Resolve, learn how to do it. It has a steep learning curve, but not that. Yeah, just practice on it. That's all I can say. But if you're only going to do this as a one-off thing, just download it and you can delete it right afterwards. Anyway, so once you have that installed, you're going to want to open up the project You're going to want to open up the program, and when you first open it up, it's going to bring you to this project manager. If this doesn't show up and you happen to go into the program itself, just hit Shift 1 or hit the house button on the bottom right, which is where my mouse is right now. I'm slightly covering it with my avatar, but you should be fine. Anyway, when you're here, you see this window, and you're going to want to right-click anywhere inside of there, and then there is a Restore Project Archive option. Click on that. And then when you're there, navigate yourself to the unzipped files, and then go to Video Template, and then click on the DRA folder. Do not enter the folder, just click on the folder. And when you have that, you should see this in the text down here, and you're going to want to open that. And then you're going to come across this name window, and you're just going to want to label this however you want. So let's call this tutorial. And then when you have that done, it should be imported, and then just double click on the project, and it should open up, and here we are. So first thing you want to do is go into this edit tab down here. So if you're not there yet, just click on it. If you're there, great. And then you're going to want to go to this folder right here. This is called a bin. You're going to want to enter this bin, and then double click on the main timeline just so you make sure that the timeline is up. If it's already up for you, then don't worry about it. So if we look into this project here, we have 9 tracks. Yes, 9 tracks, perfect. So the bottom 4 tracks, they're not that relevant. They're not important at all. You can ignore them. The top 4 tracks are the ones that we're going to really want to focus on. Well, actually, this second track down here, this is going to be the name track, so you're going to want to relabel this with whatever your username is. So I'm going to put in license 20, and you can move it around by using the position options right here. So when you see where the X is, that's the X axis. You're going to want to click, hold, and drag it, and it's going to move it around so you can space it to wherever you want. And then there's also a size option here. This is going to control the size of the font. You can make it bigger, smaller, however you want. And if you want, you can just delete it entirely and drag in your own logo or icon or wherever you want. Now, the thing about this is, one thing, this font does not support the @ character, so you might want to use a different font for that if you really want to have the @ in there, but it's not a big deal. And in your version, you're not actually going to have this over here, this separated out like this. This is actually going to look more like this, so let me fix that. I forgot to change it on this version of the DRA folder, of the DRA file. So it's going to look more like this. So when you have that, you can just scroll through, and it's basically doing what that example I showed you earlier was doing. Now, it's going to be using the glitch effect, and the glitch effect might be taxing on your computer, so your computer may be a little, like, glitchy. I guess that's a good way to put it. And it might not exactly show you what is happening in the preview right here. The preview, just trust it. It's going to be working just fine when you finally export it. The preview just might not show exactly what you think it's going to show you. Anyway, so let's go up here. So you see these 4 tracks, 6 through 9. The 6th track is the one we're going to really focus on. This is where we're going to be doing this is going to contain the animations. The ones above it, these are just the text. There's one for, like, this one is like if you have 3 lines of text, if you have 2 lines, if you have 1 line. So let's look at this. So if you see here, you see top line, sample text, bottom line. Yeah, so that's how it's going to look. Anyway, so first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that this magnet right here is turned on, so it should be white. So this is going to allow you to snap the playhead to different parts of it, and it's going to automatically snap to, like, different cuts on the timeline. And this also accounts for, like, if you drag, it's going to automatically snap to the timeline or to, like, a different cut on the timeline. So this is going to be very useful, especially when we're navigating through this and then trying to edit different things. So we're going to go to this marker right here, this blue marker, which is also the beginning of Cosplay Friday. Make sure there's nothing above it, because if there's anything above it, it's going to override it, and then that's what you're going to end up editing by accident. So you want to make sure you're at the beginning of this and click on Fusion, this tab right here. So in here, we see a couple previews. We have a preview on the right, a preview on the left, and we're going to see this little area down here. This is called the node window, or like the node manager. I don't actually know what the exact name is, but I call it the node window. So this is where you're going to control the nodes, which are basically the elements or that you're going to animate, and then the actions of the nodes that control animation actions. And then you're also going to want to click on this media pool on this top left. Make sure it's showing. If it's not showing, click on media pool, and it's going to bring up your bins and the other assets that you have. Now, in this assets folder, you're not going to see the assets that you dragged into the folder earlier in the File Explorer. So what you're going to want to do is open up your File Explorer, go to the assets folder where you dragged in your images, and then you're going to want to select all 3 of them and drag them into this folder right here. So for some reason, it didn't drag properly, so that is kind of weird. Oh, maybe it's because it doesn't support a JFIF or a WebP. Okay, so that's one thing I didn't consider in this. I forgot I did make some edits on these earlier in GIMP in order to convert them to PNGs. So these, you have to make sure that they are JPEG files. So you know what? I'm just going to use 3 hentai protagonists, so don't worry about that. So yeah, just make sure that they're either JPEGs or PNG files. And then what you're going to want to do is, now that we're inside Cosplay Friday, this fusion composition, you're going to want to drag down your image down into here. And one thing I also recommend, right-click in the window, in the node window, and then click on Arrange Tools to Grid. That way, like when you're dragging it around, it's going to snap to the grid. So you see here, there's a cosplay placeholder. This is the white box that happens when you reveal it. So this is the timeline, the scrub bar. So you're gonna look in here. So you see a white. That's basically that's the cosplay placeholder. That's where your image is supposed to go. So we're gonna want to get rid of that. Click on that and hit the backspace or delete it. And then you're gonna want to drag from this gray box right here down to this green box of this cosplay node. And this is going to bring your image in. So what you're also going to want to do is resize your image. That way it fits within like where the image is supposed to go. So if we do this, we can drag this playhead back down to about like 4 seconds or even like less. Let's say about like 2. And you're going to see there might be a slight gray box. It's going to be slightly hard to see maybe, but there's like a slight gray box, and what you're going to want to do is adjust the size by clicking on this cosplay node. And over here, there is a size option, so you can change the size. And after you get a certain, after a certain amount, if you get pretty big, you're going to see that it kind of cuts it out. So it's cropping out the image. That way it fits within a certain size. And you're going to want to make sure that it's inside of that it's filling up that entire crop. So you don't want it to be smaller than the crop. You're going to want it to be bigger than the crop. So you might have to drag it up a little bit and bring it back down. And if you don't know if you're in the crop or not, just drag it and see until it disappears. If it starts disappearing, then you're good. And then you're also going to want to probably adjust the center of the image. So you're going to drag this around left and right to make sure you're there. You're going to want to drag the y-axis up and down to make sure that you're centered. And voila, now the character is centered and this should be working fine. So if you look at this, and then it's gonna go back. Oh, it's also looping, so let's turn off that loop. It's gonna go back, and then when the animation finishes, it should be back in the original spot at the right size. It's just kind of cut short because of how the composition is here right now. So if we look here, voila. So it should go back there. There is, again, like I said, a white placeholder, this right here. But you can ignore that for now. We'll get to that later. That way the image is actually showing up. You're going to want to repeat this process for Saturday and Sunday. So let's get into the Fusion tab. And I'll just use this character again. Delete the cosplay placeholder. Drag from the gray box into the green in the cosplay. Click on the cosplay node. Oh, actually make sure that you're on like 2 or 4 or whichever frame number you want. Adjust the size of your character. That way it's fitting inside of the crop area like that. And then we go back to edit. And then you're going to want to go to, if you're going to want to scroll, you can also scroll out by holding onto this and dragging in and out, or you can hold Alt and use a scroll wheel. So I recommend you kind of zoom out a little bit. So you're going to want to drag the playhead to the beginning of this clip or at this marker. You're going to go to Fusion and do the same thing once again. And then bring the playhead around here. Click on cosplay. Adjust the size. And we'll just do that. So I think you kind of got the idea now. So when you have that, you have all 3 days done. Now I have 3 hentai protagonists as my cosplays for the 3 days of Tsumi Con, which is not actually what I'm doing, but for the purposes of this, it is. So down here, we also see that there are these nodes. I did lie a little earlier. We are going to want to do a couple stuff with these nodes. So first, we're going to go here, and we're going to actually, you're going to actually click on Friday. Let's start with Friday. We're going to click on Cosplay Friday, and we're going to drag it down. Hold Shift, click on it, hold, then hold Shift and drag it down. If you hold Shift, it will make it so that you can't move it left or right. You can only move it up or down, which is what we want. And drag it down until we're in this 3rd track right here. Let go, and then we should be good. Now, what we want to do next is bring the playhead to this marker, which is the end of this clip. Delete this section, And then you're going to want to hover over here until you see these two brackets coming out. And then you're going to drag it all the way to the end until it snaps to the end. Now, next, we're going to want to click on this blade option right here or hit B. And then you're going to hover over the playhead, click, and it's going to cut it so that now we have the image on the left instead of the white box. So you're going to want to, but next thing you do want to drag this back up here to the original track that it was on, track number 6. You're going to repeat the process with Saturday and Sunday. So drag this. Don't shift and click, it's going to double click. So click first, hold shift, and then drag it down. And you're going to want to repeat the same process. Bring the playhead to the end of that, drag out, press B, and then, or click the blade button, and then voila. You're going to want to drag this up, back to track 6, and then finally you're going to want to do this with the Sunday track as well. Now, I do want to note, if you're on Mac, there's a chance that you might have a different keybind for the blade button. So just, if you're on Mac, just click on the blade button. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it might either be C. It might be C for cut. I'm not entirely sure. So you're going to want to do that, and then voila. Now you have the image is stuck there. But as you can see, there is a slight issue with the Fusion composition. It might not exactly show the image at the end. All you need to do to fix that is just go back to the blade button. Just go somewhere early there, cut, delete the end, and drag this out. If you do that, it should fix it. Just make sure you scrub through and then see if it gets to the end. Now, same thing happened with this top one, so let's do that. And now it should go to the end. And finally, same with the bottom one, do that. And now we should see it go all the way to the end. So that is a slight issue that you might come across. So just make sure to do that and go all the way to the end and see all 3 show up at the end. If they don't, then just see what might be wrong. In this case, it's just that this didn't go all the way to the edge over here to match the other 3. And actually, these 2 you're going to want to also drag out here. So now we have that done. Let's work on the text. So you're going to have the 1-line, 2-line, and the 3-line text. For this one, I will actually show you a demonstration of all 3. So let's get rid of these 2 since I want to make this a 3-line. For the next one, I'm going to make it a 2-line, so I'm going to get rid of the 3-line and 1-line. And finally, I'm going to get rid of the bottom 2, so I have a 1-line here. Now you're going to want to drag them down to the same track. So the top track is now going to be the top 2 tracks are going to be empty, but it's not a big deal. So I'm going to just demonstrate the 3 lines, 2 lines, and 1 lines. You can just make it however many lines you want, but for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to do all 3. So this one I'm going to call generic hentai protagonist. I'm going to call this hentai protagonist, and I'm going to call this protagonist. So first, make sure you bring the playhead to the beginning of this text, or you can hover over anywhere. And then if you go into the Fusion tab, it's going to bring you to this. So that's why you want to make sure that whichever Fusion that your composition you're working on is on the top, and your playhead is over it. So you go back here. So now if we look, we have the 3 texts. And then if we look at the node window down here, we have all of this. The only ones you're going to really want to focus on are these top 3 green ones. So it says top line, middle line, and bottom line. So let's click on top line, and then we're going to rename this as generic. Now, you don't need to worry about case sensitivity for this font. Babus Noe all defaults to capitals. Then middle line, we're going to do hentai. And bottom line, we're going to do protagonist. So if we look at this, oh, sorry, I was still on the text editing, that's why I didn't show. Let's try this. So yeah, now the text is flying through exactly the way we want. Now you can also change the color of the text by clicking on the text you want to change color, and then go to this color option, click on that, and then you have this palette that you can pick colors from, or you can drag over here. Or if you already have a HTML like code, then you could just put it in here instead. So like if we do all Fs, then it should be white. But yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Now next we're going to want to go to the 2 lines. Just scroll out, make sure the playhead's over that. Click Fusion. Top line, we're going to call this hentai pro tag. This time we'll call him a pro tag. And then it should just work exactly the same. And then finally, I'm going to want to go over here, playhead over that, make sure it's the top, fusion. And we're going to change this to pro tag. Now, in your version, it's not going to say sample text. It's probably going to say middle text. Don't worry about that. Same thing. Anyway, when you have that done, you basically have this entire thing finished. Now, that also being said, this bottom, if you want to change this for a different content you might be doing, this bottom background is baked in with, it has the logo and my template, watermark, and the cosplay lineup text up here baked in. But what you can do is you can go onto GIMP or Photoshop, make your own custom background for whichever con you want. And yeah, just import it in the same way we do with the images. And then instead of just dragging it into a fusion composition, you can just drag this in. Sorry, for some reason, this was weird sometimes. Anyway, just drag it in. Yeah, drag it in like that. And yes, okay, there we go. For some reason, it wasn't working. I think it's because there was some glitch because it's an archive. Anyway, just drag it in, and then you can just place it wherever you want. Extend it out, bring it close. You can add effects to it, make your own fusion composition if you want to edit it somehow. But yeah, so you can do that with the background. But also, I want to know, note, the background also blurs as the character comes up. So you can see here, it's all blurred out. However, this text here is not blurred out. It's going to stay normal. You can blur it out if you want. All you need to do is drag in a... Oh, you can't drag in a Gaussian blur to a text clip. What you need to do is do a new compound clip first on it, and then drag the Gaussian blur onto that, and then match the... Then you want to go into this. Make sure this is selected, the video track 1. Click on effects, click on open FX, and you see Gaussian blur. Make sure to time the keyframes so that they match up, so the blurs happen at the right time. And then you're going to want to adjust the strength accordingly. Now, this will require you to know how to do some editing and some animation. If you don't, then there are plenty of tutorials online. I recommend looking at Casey Ferris, amazing DaVinci Resolve tutorial on YouTube. So yeah, check that out if you want to do your own thing with that. So yeah, this is basically it. And you can also one thing I want to note is if you go into the Fusion tab over one of the cosplays, you can change the color of the cover by going to this cover right here and replacing it with something else. Just make sure it is the same size. Now, I could make it so that you can also have a mask on there, but honestly, I just say leave it as gray. I think it works well with the color scheme in the background. So yeah, that's what I personally like. Anyway, once you have that done, click on this deliver tab right here, and it's gonna bring you to this page, which is all for exporting. Now, first you want to name your export, or actually make sure you click on custom export. Now you can do another one, whatever floats your boat. But I say just go to custom export, then file name, just name it as tutorial lineup vid. So I'm just going to name it that. For your location, browse, and then click on wherever you want to export it to. I'm just going to export it to tutorial. I'll just export it right here. Save. And then here we have render, single clip. Just leave it single clip. Video, export video, perfectly fine. Now next you're going to want to do your format. Now you can do any of these. I just say just stick with MP4 H.264 codec. For your encoder, since if you have the free version, then you're not going to have the NVIDIA option. You're just going to have to use whatever the native option is. Now, I have NVIDIA, so it's going to render a little faster for me since it's using the NVENC encoder. But if you have a good enough CPU, it shouldn't take crazy long. It might take like a couple minutes because there is some animations going on in the background, but hopefully it's not too bad. Everything else should pretty much fine. Now, you might notice that the resolution says 1920 by 1080. That's entirely fine. This video is 1440 by 1080, but it's not going to make a big difference. Anyway, after that, you're going to want to click on Add to Render Queue. Then you just click on Add. Click on Add. It's going to be right here. And click on Render All, and it should render the video out. So it's going to take a little bit, so we'll just skip to when it's all finished rendering. Okay, so it's finished exporting. So now we're going to want to make sure that it exported correctly. Let's go back here. and go to where we exported it to, and let's watch it. So there is a slight issue. So something I did forget to mention, and that's probably why my export took a little long. So make sure to finish watching the video before you actually export it. So you see this crazy glitch going on? That's not supposed to happen. So I know where that happened. If we go back into the edit tab, you see these right here. These also have the glitch effect added onto it. If we look over here, the digital glitch is on. So we're going to want to turn that off by clicking on this red dot. You're going to click on Saturday, red dot, this one, red dot. Now it should be fine. So if we go over here, it shouldn't be glitching out like crazy like it was doing in the exported video. It should only be glitching out when it's zoomed in. So let's go to deliver, and we're going to want to render this again. I'm sorry. So if you already rendered it once, well, hopefully you're still watching this before it finishes rendering. That way you have a chance to stop the render and then fix that and then re-render it. But if you don't, well, that's my bad. So click on add to render queue again. It should, and then click on replace. Or you can rename it as V2, whatever you want, and then you're going to want to render it. And this time it should be way faster. Okay, it finished rendering, so we're going to want to review this one and then make sure it's all right. If there is an issue, just fix whatever the issue is and just re-render it. So let's open this up. Looking good. Awesome. Okay. So there should be like a slight glitch happening in the background, and that should be fine. So there's going to be small glitches happening around. But yeah. But yeah, there you go. So this should be it. Now, if you do want to use your own music, just make sure to time it correctly with the zoom in, zoom outs, so that you don't need to worry about like, oh yeah, it doesn't match it. So if it matches, it's just better. That's all I'm going to say. Take my word for it. But yeah, that's it for the video portion of this. But next, we're going to want to go into how to edit the photo version. If you want to do the photo version, don't worry. There will be timestamps, like, just so you know, like, hey, this is where the GIMP tutorial starts. This is where DaVinci Resolve tutorial starts. Okay, Futurelize is here. I kind of forgot one thing. So for the image template, you're going to want to open that up, and then you're going to want to either open XCF or PSD depending on your file edit or your photo editor. So if you have Photoshop, then you're going to want to open PSD. If you have GIMP, which if you don't have Photoshop, get GIMP. GIMP is entirely free and just as good as Photoshop in my opinion. Just use XCF. So in my case, I'm using GIMP, so I'll just double click XCF, and it should bring up the template file. So yeah, I kind of forgot to mention this in the video, so when I was editing, I was like, oh crap, there's an issue. So when you're here, you're pretty much good, and we could get back to the main tutorial. Anyway, so first we're going to want to bring in our images. This time, we don't need to worry about if our images are JPEGs or PNGs as much. You're going to still want them to be certain types, but for the most part, GIMP supports more than just JPEGs and PNGs, so you can drag all three of these into here. But let's actually do it one at a time. So over here, we see the tutorial. We see all these layers on the right. Let me move myself so that we don't need to, like, so we can see what the layers are doing. So over here, we have left, white, middle, right, white, right, white. Oh, there you go. We have the logo, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, lineup, cosplay. These are the texts. And then the background. The background has my watermarks baked in. So yeah, keep that in mind. I do appreciate if you guys keep that in. But yeah, you can do whatever you want with it. And then here we have the Tsumi Con logo. That's not baked in, so you can delete this and add in a different con logo if you want. So first, we're going to drag in our Friday. And then, oh yeah, sorry, I should make it more obvious that I'm dragging in. So you grab this and drag it in and let go. But, oh, it dragged all three in. Never mind. Okay, I forgot that I had all three highlighted. But yeah, now all three are in. We have the Anya, we have House Husband, and we have generic hentai pro tag. So whichever one you want for Friday, make sure to drag that and make sure it's between left and middle because we want to make sure that it's on the left side. We're going to drag into Saturday cosplay under middle, and then we're going to make sure that the final one is under right. So let's go here, and then we're going to want to click on this plus button right here and then drag our character under there where it's roughly centered here. And then you're going to want to click Shift T, which is going to bring you to, sorry, that was Shift R, Shift T, which is going to bring you to the transform tool. Now make sure you are on the right tab when you do that. So we're going to click on the generic hentai protag tab or layer, Shift T, and now we have these little things that show up. You're going to want to drag them in order to resize the character. So let's resize him, and then you have the transparent white going around it. So you, wherever the transparent white is, that's where we want him centered under, or the character centered under. So we have that, and after you finish that, click on Enter or hit Transform. And then next, we're going to want to do the same with our other characters. So we have the Anya, and then make sure you're on that layer by clicking it. Also, you can turn it invisible by clicking on the eye. So we're going to be on the Anya layer, or whatever your Saturday layer is. Control Shift, Shift T, Shift T. You're going to want to drag the bars so that we resize it properly. Oh, yeah, also, when you're dragging diagonally, do not drag the inner box. That's going to skew, that's going to drag it around like that in just a corner. If you want to resize, make sure it's on the outer box. So let's drag that. And make sure that it is highlighted yellow, whichever box that you're going to drag. If you drag outside of it, it's going to rotate it. If you do anything by accident, just hit Control Z to undo it. And then once you have Anya centered, or whoever your Saturday cosplay centered, hit Transform. And then we're going to do the same with our final cosplay. And now click on that layer, Shift T, not Control T, Shift T, and then you're going to resize it, drag it, center it inside of the white transparent background or transparent box. And then when you're there, hit Transform. And now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to crop out the character so they only fit inside of the boundaries of the white boxes. So what you're going to do is go to your Friday cosplay. In this case, it's the generic hentai protag, and get on that layer. So that layer is highlighted. And next, you're going to want to hold onto Alt and click on this portion, this thumbnail of left white. When you do that, since you shift click it, it's going to select whatever is inside of that layer, which is right here, this white box. You're going to want to hit Control C, Control V. This is going to paste whichever layer that you are on that selection. And you're going to, which is why you want to make sure that you are on the generic hentai protag layer or the Friday cosplay layer. So you're going to click on, sorry, let me move myself again because I'm an idiot. There you go. So now you see down here, there is a green button on this bottom left. Do not click on the right one. This one's going to merge it down, which you don't want to do. You're going to want to click on this one. This is going to create a new layer with the pasted stuff. So when you have that, you can get rid of the old image, and now you only have what is under that white box. And now you can turn that white box invisible or delete it. So there you go. You're going to want to repeat the same process for the other cosplays. So click on the layer, Alt click the thumbnail of whatever you want to select, which is going to be the middle white this time. Control C, Control V, click on the green button for new layer, get rid of the old one, and now you have that. And same for Sunday. So you're going to click on House Husband or your Sunday cosplay, click on the thumbnail, and then Control C, V, new layer, and then get rid of the old one. And finally, you have your completed, well, cosplay lineup. Oh, actually, I forgot. Turn off the white boundaries. That way you don't look like they're like ghostly and stuff like that. But yeah, there you go. And you can also, on the bottom left, add your own logo or add your text for your username or name or whatever you want to call yourself. So for this, just hit T, not Shift T, just T. It's going to bring up the text tool. Click down here, and then just type in your username. And now I'm going to put down license 20 there. And then if you want to move it around, well, first, if you want to adjust the font, you have this option right here. That's your font. And then over on the left, you have other options. If you want to change the font, click on this little box right here, and this is going to bring up all the fonts that you can change it to. So let's change it to this. You could, yeah, do that. And then you're going to want to escape in order to make sure that you don't delete anything. Escape so you're out of that. you're going to want to click on this move tool yet next, and you're going to want to make sure you click inside of the text, because if you click outside the text, it's going to drag that instead. Click inside the text, not like that. Make sure you do that, and then just Control Z if you make a mistake, and just drag it to wherever you want it to be. So I want it right there, and it should be fine. Now you might have noticed that there are these like little grids or these guides right here. Don't worry about that. You don't need it. However, if you do accidentally move this over here, for example, and you need to line it back up, what you're going to want to do is let's clear all guides. So image, guides, remove all guides. You're going to want to click on guides, new guide by percent. You're going to want to do vertical, and then here you're going to type in 20. And then you're going to drag this and do control drag. That way it stays on the same height, or it snaps to like the same height or the same the width or location. And then you're going to drag it until the plus hits the guide, and it's going to snap onto it. And when you do that, it should be fine. And if you want to do over this side, make sure the guide percentage is 80 and the center is going to be 50. So as long as you do that, you should be fine. Now, then again, Control Z if you do make a mistake. Undo is your best friend. But that should be it for this video. Hopefully you found this tutorial pretty helpful. And if you didn't and have some more questions, just make sure to toss it in the comment section below or DM me on Discord. I'll have my Discord linked in the description, or Instagram. Just DM me wherever if you need some help with this. But hopefully this tutorial helps you out. Hit that like button, maybe subscribe. I might be doing more of this stuff. You never know. And comment down below what cosplays you're planning on doing. Obviously, you can see here, these are the 3 cosplays I'm going to be doing. But yeah, that'd be interesting. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope it was good. I'll see you all next time.